Good morning. My name is Jeremy Martin from Seaside Linux, and I wanted to cover a little bit about graphics metadata. So with graphics, the biggest thing is you need to know that traditional files, you're going to have a header and a footer. Header's going to be the first few bytes of the file. Footer's the last few bytes of the file. But right after the header, that's usually where metadata of a file is going to be, if there is metadata. After the metadata is going to be the body of the content of that file. So a lot of different files do have metadata. With graphics, again, depending on the graphic you have, very commonly you're looking at things like JPEGs, things in that area. That's going to have a little bit more metadata, more than just your traditional. It's also going to have things like EXIF. EXIF is going to be a subsection of the metadata. So traditionally, with EXIF, that's going to contain things that are coming directly from the camera itself. Sometimes it does add a few things in it related to software that's edited. So there's a variable called software. Last software that does touch it is going to add its name there. So it could be, let's say, software for transferring a file from the camera to the computer. A lot of times it dumps the software name in there or adds that record. You'll also see things like you edit with Adobe, it's going to add it there as well. Even with the operating system, if you right click on the file and then, let's say, rotate it, it's going to add a software record. So metadata has a lot of good potential evidentiary value when it comes to computer forensics or digital forensics. EXIF does as well. So on this table, we do have several sections of submeta categories. EXIF XMP, IPTC, of course JFIF, and DICOM. This primarily is focused more not just on JPEGs, but very specific imaging software, usually going to find in the medical field. So X-ray images, things in that area. So with that said, on the right-hand side of this column, we have forensic relevance. EXIF definitely has some pretty good forensic relevance, including things like GPS data. If the device does allow for GPS, some cameras do, if they have a GPS module, but definitely phones will as well. As far as XMP, definitely useful for tracking editing history and authorship, copyright information. You'll see the same thing with IPTC-IIM. This is more of an older metadata set. A lot of things are going to be going into kind of like an XML format for the XMP. But especially anything that's copyright, you're looking at these two. Again, XMP and ICTP. As far as JFIF, usually that's just information related to basic information on the picture itself, size, things in that area, resolution, and color. So, a couple things I did want to copy with this or cover with this is certain things that you will be able to see. I know this is not an absolute. Anything can be altered on the digital side. With that said, some of the content where it says shouldn't be able to be edited, in most software it won't let you. But again, as far as digital goes, anything can be modified, anything can be spoofed or fake. But traditionally with EXIF information, you're going to have image creation date. That is going to be related to the camera itself. So anytime that the camera has been, again, manually modified or updated as far as time zone, timestamp. If it's a phone, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Most phones, they're going to be updated with the timestamp of the service provider that they're connected to. A lot of the service providers, their NTP or network time protocol is going to be updated by atomic clocks. so it's very accurate in most cases. So any timestamps that you see in an image, if it's a phone, it's usually a lot more trustworthy than it would be with a digital camera. Especially when you're dealing with things like point and clicks and DSLRs without a GPS module or any sort of Wi-Fi module or capability. If you do have Wi-Fi, then it could be updating too. So the other thing, you have last modified. Again, usually not with EXIF. That doesn't get touched. Again, it could be edited. But as far as software transfer using tools like GIMP or Adobe, it leaves that alone. So that's going to take the timestamp directly from the camera or the device that took the picture. As far as software editing history, usually EXIF, you're not going to see what's necessarily edited it, but the software that touched it. So if no software touched it at all, you might not even see a software variable in the EXIF data. But like I mentioned before, if you're using software to transfer from the camera to the computer, that transfer software is probably going to add that record and then put its information inside. So the last software that touched the file usually updates the EXIF data. As far as XMP, this is usually pushed in with tools like Adobe, software like that, which essentially, again, is going to tie in not just creation time, but authorship, copyright information, things like that. So as far as XMP, it does support encryption. Again, you're looking mainly at copyright or intellectual property capability within the software. Again, can be stripped. Technically, anything can be stripped. Here they're talking about XMP. No, because manual removal. If you upload a picture, it doesn't matter if it has any of these in place. If you upload it to applications, social media sites, there is a possibility it may strip the data and then convert the file or compress it so it's a completely new file, where there is a possibility all copyright, all the metadata specific to the file could be removed. So tying it in, I know this section here says found in social media. It depends. Like I just said, depending on the site, they may take that image and then basically rebuild it to a smaller image to take less space. That's done very commonly with social, basically SEO, search engine optimization. You also have typical location within the file itself. Again, pretty much all this stuff is, realistically, it's header data. Or not header data, but metadata. So metadata is going to be, again, directly after the header of the file. So for example, a JPEG. A JPEG, you might have FFD8, FFE0. For the first few bytes, the JPEG to tell the system that it is a JPEG file. There's a few other characters afterwards, but then again it goes into your base meta or metadata and then your sub metadata categories. The footer of a JPEG is going to be FFD8. So, with that said, I do want to cover a tool called XAMP. XAMP is a pretty decent tool. It's free. You can use it for forensics as long as you don't edit the data. So if you're going to use tools like this, the best thing to do is make a hash of the image before anything even touches that file. So image as far as the graphic image, not image of a disk. So with that said, after you do the analysis of that graphic, image it again just to verify that nothing's been altered or nothing's been changed. So one of the things I did want to look at within this tool itself one of the reasons I do like it is I have some sample images in this folder. All these contain GPS data. So I'm going to focus on this picture right here. So in this picture we have a statue, we have a bench, we have a tree that has a branch that forks off. So this is something that we're going to look at here shortly. I'll make this a little bit bigger. On the left-hand side, we have the regular properties. The very top part, this is not metadata. This is going to be operating system information. So this is tied directly to the file system that file is currently on. So of course with image here, you're looking at metadata related to, like I mentioned before, resolution, size of the file. If it's 8-bit, 16-bit, 24-bit, 32-bit. Most graphics that are 32-bit are usually going to have an alpha channel. So if it's an 8-bit image, you're going to have 256 colors. If it's 16-bit, you're going to have 65,536 colors. And 24-bit is going to be 16,777,216 colors. Most humans can't see more than that. So the 4 billion colors a lot of people push with 32-bit color, that really doesn't do anything in vast majority of cases. So most images are going to be 24-bit. This is also where steganography comes in, because you can change the last few bits of that color. And with 16 plus million colors, it doesn't matter if it's blue or slightly bluer blue. The human eye is not going to tell the difference. But going back to this, we have DPI, can print size the image. This is going to be usually tied into the JFIF data or JFIF metadata. As far as, we'll skip over to XMP. Doesn't look like this has much with XMP, but it does look like it was modified or at least copied or edited with Microsoft Photo. So let's look at EXIF. So EXIF has a lot of good information, especially related to the device that took the image of the picture. So here we see make and model. This was taken with a Nikon Coolpix P6000. Software. So it might not necessarily have been altered. So what's probably happened was it was copied from the camera by plugging the camera into a cable, copying it over, as opposed to just pulling it from an SD card. So again, if you pull it from an SD card, software is going to be empty in most cases, or it might not even be a variable that's in the EXIF. So date modified, been a while ago, but again, this was related to software transfer. As far as the camera itself, we have when the picture was actually taken based off of the timestamp in the camera, so it's how it was set up. So if it wasn't set up properly, or let's say that somebody went to a different country and it's a different time zone, it's going to be the timestamp related to the settings within the camera itself. But other interesting things that a lot of people don't necessarily take a look at would be things like f-stop, ISO speed, things related to the picture itself. So there, especially those that are in photography, a little bit more information that they would know that's not necessarily just common knowledge. What the lighting would be related based off those, not just f-stop ISO, but the lens itself. So again, if it's a point and click, the lens is stagnant. If it's a DSLR, you can change lenses. So with digital cameras, the three main kinds you're going to have are going to be good old, basically point and click or point and shoot. Those are ones that the body and lens is all in one. With DSLRs, usually you have the capability of changing lenses. On the low grade, they're usually more expensive than basically point and shoots. Mid grade, a little bit more expensive, and then think of mid grade as prosumer. And then, of course, you're going to have the pro grade. Professional grade can be a lot more expensive. For example, I use Canon photography, or Canon cameras for photography. The Canon EOS T series is usually kind of the prosumer grade, and that's where you can spend over $1,000 for a body. But then you get the Mark series, where sometimes it can be $3,000 to $5,000 for the body, and that doesn't even take into consideration the lenses. With the mid-grade or prosumer, you start getting more information, sometimes serial numbers of either the body and or the lens. With professional grade cameras, usually they almost always put in serial number of the body and probably the lens as well. And the reason is for copyright protection. So the more unique identifying information based off the device that took the picture, the easier it is for the photographer, because most people aren't going to spend that much money for a professional grade camera. They'll be able to prove that they took the picture, or at least the device did. And if they have ownership of the device, that helps them if there's ever any sort of copyright case. Another couple interesting items that you might see would be focal. So if a camera does have information related to the distance of the focal point, then that also could help you, especially identifying individuals, determining how tall they are based off of knowing the height and measurements of other things within the picture. So if you're looking just at digital, there's still a ton of stuff in here which is really valuable, or it's good content. If you're looking at the stuff within inside of the image itself, there's a lot of things you can infer as well. So like this picture here, we mentioned there's a unique statue. Statues this big probably aren't going to go away anytime soon. Yes, there are certain potential reasons for it, but they're usually there for a while. So you might be able to find other pictures to verify the location of where this was done. So what I'm going to do real quick is let's take a look at GPS. The cool part is this does give us a pretty good set or information of where this is actually going to be. Also, general timestamp from the GPS satellites, so you can verify at least the date with the time related to when the picture was taken. And it looks like the time zone might be slightly off, because this looks like it's 10/23/2008, and this is 10/23/2008. So one thing I do like about XnView is you do have the capability of looking at a few things, but this right here, so not just the EXIF. Actually, let's look at the map real quick. It tells you basically where the GPS says it's going to be. You can also go satellite view, and this is built directly into the software. So for analyzing a picture, it's great, especially if there's metadata or EXIF. But what I'm going to do here is right-click on it, go to metadata, then open GPS location. You can do it directly in Google Maps, OpenStreet, Google Earth. I like doing GeoHack for as long as it lasts. It's a nice website because it has lists to a lot of different mapping sites and some other information sites, especially if you're doing a lot of OSINT or open source intelligence gathering. This definitely can help as well. And some fun ones like Flight Tracker Radar or Flight Radar 24. You can see airplanes that are flying over at the time that you're looking. From investigation, that might not necessarily be useful, but again, depending on what type of thing you're doing, that could be. But right now what I'm going to do is let's go to Google Maps and let's just do Street View. Once we're in Street View, I'm going to pop open the other tool real quick. Again, we're looking for a tree with two big branches, a bench, and this unique statue. Going back to this page, we're lucked out because we just happen to see that statue. So that actually pushed us a little bit further away. We do see this tree. Again, this tree branches. There's a bench right there. So I'll see if we can get over there. And it doesn't look like they're allowing us back over in this area. But we do see the right bench. It looks like the right tree. There's a light post here. So the light post is right behind the tree. And then, of course, this statue. So it might be hard to see where the mouse is, but the actual GPS location where the picture is taken is probably around where that mouse is. So it's actually pretty accurate, especially it being an older device. So all in all, biggest thing about metadata and graphics, the thing we're wanting to look at realistically comes down to, again, most files have metadata. Then metadata is going to be after the header information. With graphics, it has a lot of submeta information that can contain a lot of really interesting evidentiary value data. Now to end this, the big thing about DICOM, think of this again, mention like x-rays. A lot of times you will have patient data, or not just PII, person identifiable information, but PHI, so information related to healthcare data. So if any of these get leaked out on the internet, or if they're on devices that shouldn't have that type of access, that in itself could be evidentiary value. Why these images are, let's say, on a laptop that belongs to somebody that has no business in the medical field. So, all in all, in a nutshell, just covered metadata for graphic images. So again, if you do have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Jeremy Martin with CSI Linux. The best email to give us contact with if you have any questions, comments, things in that area is going to be support@csilinux.com. So thank you very much.